Carmen, we are live. You can just unmute yourself. Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to another Q&A session with Scholarship Track. I'm Kushi Sharma, the project manager, and today we have a very special guest with us, Carmen Chan. She's working as a Technology Summer Analyst in Morgan Stanley. And hi, Carmen. Thank you so much for coming here. And how are you doing?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks everyone for being here today.
It's an absolute pleasure having you here. So this session will actually cover the detailed, application process, interview process, and Carmen will be giving us some special insights about how to be in this field. And I think for all the viewers, I'll be asking the questions first, and if you have any questions, you can just put it up in the comment box, and we'll be taking up that as well. So I think Carmen, we should start up with the session. Okay, so we'll start up with something basic. So if you can just tell us something about yourself, your educational background, and the role you're currently working in.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the question. So, my name is Carmen Chan. I'm a rising junior at Wellesley College, and I'm studying data science and economics, and I'm concentrating in computer science. This summer, so the current role that I was in, I was a Technology Summer Analyst was the official title, but they did team matching in the late winter, and we actually found out a lot later just because of COVID. And so I found out my team in May, and I was working on a data zone team, which is basically a platform at Morgan Stanley, which was started 2.5 years ago, which stores all of the data within the firm. And we work closely with strats and traders, and strats are kind of like quantitative researchers, and then traders will also use the data that we provide for their own projects. And my role was automating the onboarding process. So typically before the app I built, we would have to hard code data catalogs that strats and traders would clean and want to upload to our service. And that would take over 5,000 lines of code to actually understand what they wanted to do with the data and the processes that they had. So my role was automating this process with an app so that they would simply fill out a form and the data catalog would be automatically onboarded onto our platform.
Okay, great. So, my next question for you is, how did you really apply for this role?
Yeah, great question. I applied online last year around August. So they take applications on a rolling basis, meaning once you apply, they review the applications as soon as they come in and in order of when they come in. So there's not really a deadline. It's more, well, there is a deadline, but it's also rolling admission. So you want to apply as early as you can. And then after that, there were a few hirevue, which are online. If they're video interviews, so kind of just like this, and a lot of it in COVID, obviously now all of them are really being online. But yeah, I just applied online, and then we had a series of behavioral and technical interviews.
Okay. So can you explain the role in detail? Like also, what are the company's expectations from the candidate who's actually applying for this role? So, yeah.
Yes, definitely. So the role that I did, I'll talk about the day-to-day, and the day-to-day was a lot of, so the first week, honestly, was just getting used to Morgan Stanley specific technologies, and getting kind of onboarded remotely was a strange.
Actually, that's more or less with, I guess, every job. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so my day-to-day was kind of figuring out why my project was important. That was a goal that I had coming into the summer. And part of what I did to do that was talking to people on my team, talking to strats and traders who used the product, and a lot of it. So other parts of the day-to-day would be meeting with my manager to talk about the goals for the project and any bugs that I had. So I'd say the company's expectations for interns are very reasonable in the sense that they understand that classroom and working is very different, and they are very understanding that it will take time for us to learn, and that a lot of my day-to-day was actually just learning the new technologies, like I mentioned. And I received a lot of support from my manager and team on this whenever I didn't understand a specific Morgan Stanley technology or even just using new general technologies. So I'd say their expectations are honestly about the attitude and being enthusiastic and willing to learn, enthusiastic about the project and about being there with the company and wanting to learn the technologies and grow it as your role in your role as an intern and beyond. So I'd say, but then in terms of the technical expectations, being able to learn new technologies fairly quickly and understand the nuances of the technologies. But yeah, I'd say they're very reasonable because they understand that you will be learning on the job significantly.
Okay, cool, yeah. So, yeah, so actually, this is also one of my questions. So, do you think there has to be certain specific, like, you did particular internship or a particular hackathon that really helped you to be a successful candidate for this role? Like any previous technical experience?
Yes, great question. So I'd say previous work experience. I did work at a private equity firm during a winter internship in my freshman year, and that taught me kind of work-life balance and also being kind of like focused for like 8.5 hours straight. Because in school at least you have like class in between classes to do other things and just like rest your mind a little. So that was helpful in terms of the day-to-day and just being thrown into a different work environment. In terms of technical experience, I have participated in hackathons, and I'd say that is really useful. Hackathons and just having an end-to-end project for 2 days or a week even is really helpful to learn new technologies, working with other people, and then kind of being able to troubleshoot and the type of troubleshooting is honestly knowing what to Google a lot of times. So
Yeah.
here, because we had like specific Morgan Stanley technologies specific to the firm, they had a Morgan Stanley Google, which was really helpful when I had to troubleshoot something specific that I couldn't find on normal Google. I'd say so the hackathons were helpful. What was really helpful as well was working as a tutor for our CS department, and I think being able to explain concepts to others really ingrains the concepts into your own mind in a more strong way. And then I'd say that also helped with working with other people. So our tutor at Wellesley was more like a peer mentor, and we got to like really work alongside other students and professors and kind of get to attack different problems from different angles, which I thought was really helpful for this summer.
Yeah, that's really great actually. So, can you give actually some detailed application or interview tips for the future participants?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say definitely since Morgan Stanley hires or reviews applications on a rolling basis, I would definitely say apply early. So I think they open sometime in July, even early July. Applying a week after they open the application is important and helpful. Obviously, still put a lot of time into it and don't just like throw it out there. They're still reviewing them. So I'd say that's a big one. And then interview tips. Morgan Stanley really values culture, and that was a big pull for the company for me, and that's what I got out of the interview process. I think generally, and this is general advice, not even specific to Morgan Stanley, in an interview, the company's interviewing you, but you're also interviewing the company. What you really want to get out of it is knowing if it's a good fit for you for the summer and long term, because you want to see somewhere that you can grow your career in. So that encouraged me to look for a company whose values I agreed with and whose culture I could see myself in for a long time. And that is something that I recommend for people to get out of the interview. And then in terms of actual tips for the interview, I'd say be genuine about what you want and get to know the company. Do your own research first. So Morgan Stanley has had 4 core values and they just added a 5th, so they have 5 now. And get to know those values and figure out if you resonate with them and if you can see yourself growing at a company like that. And really, I'd say also like getting a chance to speak with other people who work there to really get to know the culture. That would really help for the interview as well.
Yeah, actually, I completely agree with you in this case because when you're applying for an application and when you're applying for a certain role, what really beholds it's your genuinity, and I think, yeah, that's actually really the case. So, yeah. So, what are the perks of working as a technology analyst in fintech? So, yeah, like how is it different from working in the big 4 tech companies?
Yeah, great question. So I actually learned a lot of this through the summer. I going in, I was actually thinking that I might try working in the Big Four at some point. And after the summer, I really think that this is the right place for me. And what got me to that point is we had a lot of opportunities to speak with senior management and just other full-timers at the firm, and a lot had been at Big Fours before. So we got a chance to ask them about their transition, and most of the people why they want to make that transition. The difference was that at a Big Four, one of the Big Four tech companies, your work can kind of be siloed, or it's because the companies are so big, it takes a longer time to see the results of your work come into fruition. And whereas at a fintech company, so I was at Morgan Stanley, my project is immediately being used, and I think that's just a really satisfying feeling, and it's really exciting, and it makes you want to be more creative, and they allow you to work on very interesting projects. So my manager had it was never assigned to him, but he actually got to work on one of his own projects that he was just interested in for the firm because he wanted to. So there's a lot of flexibility, I'd say, here, because they really encourage you to constantly innovate. Whereas I'd say and I think the Big Four obviously are great companies as well. But it's like I was talking about before, when you're interviewing the company as well, it should be a good fit both ways. So Big Four is for maybe someone who, well, I don't really know because I haven't done that, but I'd say it's about a fit. So I was really excited to see my work have an impact at a very high level and quickly, rather than waiting for like a few years, 5 years, to see some progress. And then in terms of perks, that's a good question. I think it's funny because I was remote this summer, but they actually did have some benefits talks with us to tell us what kind of benefits we would get if we were in the office or working full time. And they really value their employees and their entire community. And that is definitely a perk of working at Morgan Stanley. And I think they talked about the support that they'd have if you wanted to start a family there. So they offered significant support for, I don't know how much in detail I can go to that, but significant support for offspring and even grandparents and healthcare, which I thought was incredible that they were considering people so kind of not far removed, but like grandparents usually aren't considered in benefits at a company. And snacks, definitely. We got a welcome basket, which was really nice, and at the beginning of the year and in the middle, which was snacks, and then at the end of the year. And I love snacks. So I think they really value the work-life balance and understand that we have a life outside of the company as well. And we actually got to speak with someone who was a managing director there and actually started the company while they were working at Morgan Stanley. And she mentioned that some people had said, like, oh, how can you have an extracurricular but still be working? And she said that Morgan Stanley actually encouraged her to do that and thought it was admirable. And every time she kind of moved up the ranks, they mentioned the company that she started and how that was helping other people, not that it was taking away from her experience at Morgan Stanley. So I think the perk is definitely work-life balance and their understanding that we should be fueling our lives outside of the company as well.
Yeah, I really think that flexibility between a personal and professional life, it really enhances your occupational growth as well as a personal growth. So that's actually what all the companies should inherit, and that's great actually. Okay, so my next question for you is, what type of skills you think they need to be polished for this particular role?
Yeah, great question. I'd say definitely data structures and algorithms, I think, are needed just to be familiar with what you can do, because yes, definitely. And then I'd say on the day-to-day, a lot of it is just looking stuff up, honestly, to a certain degree, because it's all very new. So the types of skills I say is being able to learn on the spot, but it's not really on the spot. They're patient and they're understanding with you. And we're interns, we are there to learn as well. So, but I'd say it would help you thrive if you had some familiarity with building personal projects, either in a hackathon or just on the side, because you're able to troubleshoot on your own and understand the types of bugs that you can encounter in certain tasks. But I'd say also what was helpful this summer is being comfortable asking questions. and that's to your direct manager or people outside of your team as well. I'd say that in a way that is kind of a skill that would need to be polished, is just being comfortable to ask questions and admit that you don't know something, because I never felt judged for not knowing anything, even though it is sometimes scary to ask questions with someone you've never met or have only met on a computer screen. But those are some of the skills that I'd recommend.
Okay, yeah, cool. I think there are some questions for the comments. I think we should take them as well, right?
Awesome.
Okay, yeah. So the first question is, yes, how is your work-life balance when you're doing your intern?
Yeah. So good question. I'm glad this was asked, and I touched upon it a little bit, but I would like to get more into this. So thanks for asking, Sai. The work-life balance was great, and I'd say being remote actually showed me even more so how they valued the interns' work-life balance, and that was pretty surprising. So my birthday was in the middle of the internship, and my manager actually somehow found out. I have no clue, I never told them, but he said that it's your birthday, you should go home earlier. We actually had a deliverable that day, so we were supposed to have a meeting, and they were like, no, go home, enjoy it. Like, your work will be here when you get back tomorrow. And I thought that was incredible, that even because the internship was shortened, so that technically would have been a large percentage of the internship. So I think they definitely do value work-life balance, and they also encourage you to go to the HR events that they put on, which is just meetings with senior managers or just other people who've been at the firm for a while. And that was really great, because they want you to be able to picture yourself as a full-time. That's the point of the internship. It's to learn and then also see if Morgan Stanley is a good fit for you. So I'd say that is really important, or was really valued in the internship for me, is that they encouraged us to learn more about the company outside of just our day-to-day job.
Okay, yeah. So I'll get myself moved now and will be answering the question. So the question will be displayed on the screen too.
Awesome. Oh, okay. Yes. So what tools and technologies did you work on? I worked with Flask, Dash App, Jupyter, PyCharm, and a lot of Dash App. And I guess the one specific to Morgan Stanley. I also learned some of those. What tool? Yeah, that's pretty much what I used. Yeah, and then also a lot of like Python libraries. I wrote everything in Python, and then a little bit of HTML for the front end, but mostly Python. And then she said, did she say I could click these? I don't. Where's she supposed to go? I don't know where she went, but the next question. Okay. How should we go about recruiting and reaching out to people during COVID? Yeah, that's a great question. So it's definitely a new time. I'd honestly say that working remotely, people are surprisingly even more willing to meet. And I'd say, how should you go about recruiting and reaching out to people? Recruiting is actually, honestly, maybe a little bit easier for some people because it's all remote. So you're not going to have to fly out for super days or like visit offices. And I think that there are pros and cons. Pros, obviously, on a logistical standpoint, but cons in the sense that you're not going to get to picture yourself in the office or actually get to feel the vibe of the office. And then in terms of reaching out to people, I'd say the same way that you would have been doing it otherwise, except now you wouldn't be asking for a coffee chat, you'd be asking for a virtual coffee chat. And I think people are very willing to meet if you obviously go about it with respect and as you would without COVID. But now it would just be, you can say it could be a video call or an audio call, because sometimes maybe jumping on a video call with someone you don't know, it might be intimidating. But yeah, I'd say just carry that with respect as you would. Honestly, it hasn't changed too much. If anything, it's gotten a little better because people are at home and understand that really setting up these coffee chats is the only way you're really going to get to chat with people, because you're not going to run into them in the office anymore. How long did it take you to get a response after your hirevue, and did you have a referral? I did not have a referral because I did not know much about Morgan Stanley. I did a high school internship with them, but it was more on the finance side. So I didn't know much about the technology because I kind of moved into technology once I went into college, and I didn't know anyone who worked there. Not until I got it. How long did it take you to get a response after your hirevue? I'm pretty sure they sent it like a week after to do a hacker rank, and then after your hirevue. After your hirevue, I think it was about a week, and then I got a hacker rank. But I'm not 100% sure because this was a while ago. But it's usually around a week or 2 weeks. What kind of side projects did you have in your resume? What types of projects do you recommend for someone wanting to get into this program? Great question. I would recommend definitely the hackathons because I think that working on a project from start to finish, and also working with people, working with strangers is really cool and quite beneficial for just being able to navigate a new environment and talk to others and work with people with different perspectives and experiences. I think is really helpful. It's scary, of course, to not go in with people from your school or people you know, but I think the benefits really outweigh the risk. What types of projects? Yeah, so hackathons, and then getting used to new technologies. They can pair you based on like the language that you're comfortable with, but I'd say if you're comfortable with more, then you obviously have more cool projects that you can do with Morgan Stanley. What kind of side projects did I have in my resume? At that time, I did a Facebook hardware hackathon where I created an IDE for hardware component selection. And then I had run some hackathons, and then I had participated in a few. I didn't have any personal projects, and I still kind of like dabble in personal projects, but I don't really put those on my resume. I really kind of do those for just for myself. So I'd say just in my resume were just the official hackathons. Oops, it skipped one. I'll answer Nirja's first because I don't know why it's not clicking. So she asked, what topics were you tested on? What tech stack did you work in? Oh, perfect. What topics were you tested on? I was tested on, I wasn't tested on it. I guess I learned about REST APIs, but I was never really, there's no like testing. It would just be like what I would be using in my project. What tech stack did you work in? I utilized the REST API to basically build like get and push methods for the form. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. There's not really like testing, but just like what I would be using in the project. And then Shreya asked, I don't know how to click this. Okay, Shreya asked, okay, next. Okay, Shreya. When would the applications for the New York City location open for this role? They should open, I believe they opened early August, if not early July. They opened pretty early. I've heard from a few like people who were applying that they couldn't find them, and I think that's what you're saying as well. But I think they might be, they're not filled, but they might have closed the application for now. But they're not. I don't think they're filled. So I'd say just keep checking online. Yeah, they shouldn't be filled. I don't know why it wasn't showing you online. Can you let us know the timeline for applying for internship? Yes. So what I was talking about earlier, like they are on a rolling deadline, rolling basis. Applications are rolling. Yeah, rolling basis, and those they usually open early July. So I'd say now is not too late to apply. So definitely apply now if you're interested. I'd say September is when the recruiting process kind of heats up, and yeah, so you'd want to get it in hopefully before then if you could. What's the eligibility criteria for the technology analyst at Morgan Stanley? I think that should be online. I'd say the eligibility criteria is being familiar with technology, and then a lot of it they'll just, if you can make it through to the interview process, that's in the technical interview, they'll see if you're ready, but that will just be like a normal whiteboarding interview. I think it varies. Mine was whiteboarding, but in terms of the eligibility criteria, I think you have to be a student if you want to go for the internship. What is the ratio of converting the intern offer to a full-time? Oh, good question. It's actually, so they were really open and transparent about the process. They actually said that our return offer is like ours to lose. So they really, like, the hard part is kind of getting in, and they really want, it was actually really nice to hear that a lot of the senior people had been there for like 30 years. And usually most people will have a long career at Morgan Stanley. And that was really nice to see, because it really builds a strong community. So I'd say, I'm not sure of the exact ratio, but it's not a cutthroat environment at all. It's really an environment where they want you to thrive. They want to see you work with other interns and collaborate and kind of grow together. So if it's a place you want to be at and you're enthusiastic about it and you're contributing and you're doing your job, there should be a full-time offer waiting for you. I mean, I don't want to say there should be, but like, if it's not a weed out process by any means. Will there be recruiters at Grace Hopper for this program? Yes, there definitely should. There will also be engineers there. I'm pretty sure Grace Hopper is like very, very big, and they usually have engineers able to talk to you there. But they actually had some events during the summer where they asked us how to make the Grace Hopper program very strong. So they put in a lot of effort and time and organization into making these events good for everyone. So yes, there would definitely be recruiters, and I strongly recommend talking to them. They're great. They're really organized and they're really friendly. So I think, and they know a lot about the company. So if you know, I'd say a recommendation that I have for when you talk to them is know what you want to do. And I know it's kind of tough, especially if you're early or haven't worked before, but I guess like some technologies that you like using or a project that you think is interesting at Morgan Stanley, or what you could see yourself working on, would be really helpful for them for team matching and for knowing if you'd be a good fit. How much programming should I do to excel? How much programming should I do to excel in the coding round? Sorry, I don't think I understand the question. To excel or in Excel? How much programming should I do? I've never programmed.
I think she's really asking about, like what kind of technical experience do you need for the coding round? Like to excel is basically.
Oh,
yeah.
I got you. Thank you. How much programming should I do to excel in the coding round? Yes. Okay, perfect. I'd say if you've taken a data structures and algorithms course, you should be ready. But it is also helpful, I'd say, to practice HackerRanks or LeetCodes, because those are more applied. All data structures and algorithms courses at different colleges are I'd say they're pretty different in terms of being more applied, more technical or theory based. So yeah, getting just personal practice in LeetCode and HackerRanks would be really helpful, because that is actually seeing a project from start to finish, being able to debug. And then also practice whiteboarding, because it is a very different feeling than having an autocompleter or being able to test your code constantly. Be able to talk through your steps and your thought process of the problems as well. I think that is very important. They want to hear you able to communicate your ideas, and that's why I think that one of the experiences that helped me was tutoring, because I was able to kind of narrate my thoughts to other people, and I think that was helpful. So I'd say on the programming side, if you have those classes and you feel comfortable and you've done LeetCode and HackerRank, you would be in a better position. But also making sure that you're okay on a whiteboard. And if you don't have a whiteboard, that's fine. Like, just use a piece of paper. Just being able to write it out without having the help of a computer, an autocomputer. For the business and data analytics teams, what skills are they looking for? Yeah, good question. So for the business and data, yeah, right. So that's because there are like 3 wings for the tech analyst. So I'd say for data analytics, what you're doing is, so that I guess they'd work closely with Strat. So they're building models to to predict trends and what skills you should. I don't want you to take. I don't want you to say the wrong thing to you or anything, because I haven't had firsthand experience here. But I'd say that being comfortable cleaning data, web scraping, and building models to make predictions would be helpful. But I'm not sure specifically what they're working for, just because I haven't worked there, worked in this specific team. But I'd say in general, being comfortable building models to make predictions would be helpful for data analytics, because I believe that's similar to what they do. In terms of the business team, I know they have some PM roles, but that's usually in wealth management. I was in IST, which is institutional securities technology. In terms of the business team, so I guess they have project management roles, and those would be not similar skills, but that's being able to just see a product from end to end and coordinate from the client side to the developer side what would be the best steps for a product. What was your approach while solving problems? Yeah, good question. So usually when I hit a roadblock, I would first try to troubleshoot on my own. I would look. So I usually had to jump between a bunch of different applications that I was using for this. So I would check all three, also Google a little bit, and then use the MS Google. And then if I really couldn't get it, I would ask either my manager or someone else on my team. They were always really willing to help, which is really nice this summer, because they have kind of a shoulder tapping culture, which is basically just, it's a very open company. So if you're in the office, they mentioned that you can just tap on someone's shoulder who doesn't look too busy, and they'll just help you even if they're not on your team. So that I was trying to kind of mimic that, but definitely harder remotely. But that was kind of my approach, trying to get it myself, and if I was really stuck, then asking others. What has been your favorite part about working at the company this summer? Great question. I'd say it was definitely the people. Even though I haven't met anyone in person really, except for my interviewers or recruiters. My favorite part was definitely the people and how open it was. We had so many talks with senior management who were super willing to tell us about their journey and about their day-to-day and give us advice for our internship. And we even got some open forums with the CEO, which was super nice. And everyone is just very open. And once you're in the community, they really have a warm feeling. So I'd say even remotely, this summer definitely exceeded my expectations for a remote summer and even just for a summer in general. And I think a big part of that is people. I'd say, because every problem I had, I was never really afraid to ask my manager, my team, and even people outside of my team were really helpful and would really kind of guide me and give me advice for even not in just a technical sense, but from a career standpoint, and to see if I could picture myself here long term. So definitely the people. Great question. Thanks, Magana. Was there any instance where you failed, and how did you overcome that? Yeah, great question. There are definitely a lot of instances where I failed. It's definitely not a smooth path. And I'd say from a technical standpoint, how did I overcome? I would usually talk to my manager about it if I was ever intimidated by certain parts of the job or the day-to-day. And I guess I never felt like I failed per se. It was just, it was a roadblock if I had some bugs in my code that I couldn't fix. And I would usually overcome it from an earlier question, which was my approach to solving problems. It was quite similar. So I would try to troubleshoot on my own and then talk to my manager. I'd say any big failure or bug that I really couldn't get might have been when my manager was really busy and we weren't able to catch up on a day, and I couldn't solve a bug. That was probably the most challenging. Next question. Did your failures impact a lot on your career? So I don't know if this is more from just the summer or in general. I'd say from this summer, yes, and in general, yes, as well. So in general, I think in failures do impact I'd say everyone's career, because it really lets you see things from a different perspective, see your career from a different perspective. And I'd say, yes, it did impact a lot. It's hard for me to say now because I'm still in the very early stages of my career. But I'd say failures usually show me, they kind of broaden my perspective, in the sense that if I know I can't do one thing, what else is there for me? And can I go back and try this again later? But I think it allows me to picture different types of careers and different types of projects if I feel like I can't do one. But also, I think pushing through a failure to the end, it's also very satisfying, because it's like something that you thought you couldn't do, you can do, and I think that's very satisfying. So I think it does have a large impact, and honestly, depending on your frame of mind, it can have a very positive impact. Thanks for your question. Are there specific data structures that I should focus more on compared to others for internships in general? I'd say that is very company, team, and role specific. So I can't give a clear answer to that. Yeah, because you use different data structures in different companies, roles, and internships. So, unless you're saying for this internship, I actually can't really answer that either, just because it's a very big company with a lot of different teams. I've only had experience on this one team, so I'd say just be comfortable with all the data structures and when they're useful. Understand when they're useful and why they're useful. Yeah, I don't think there's one that you should focus on more. Any advice that you want to give to your juniors so they don't face the problem that you faced, if any? Yeah, definitely applying early. I didn't know what rolling admission or rolling deadline was. And I think that applying early is very, very helpful. Otherwise, the spots are filled. Like, even if you're qualified, they're not going to give you a spot because they're all gone. And I think it was actually surprising that there's actually like no flexibility there. I mean, teams will tell HR how many interns they need if they're taking any, and that's how many they get. Excuse me, for any given year. Any other advice? Let's see. So yes, apply early, and then I'd say really focus in your data structures and algorithms course, and keep those materials so that you can use or cram or review right before the interviews. I'd say go into the interviews with the perspective that you're also learning from the company and seeing if you can picture yourself there. And I think that takes off a lot of pressure in a lot of ways, because no interviewer is trying to make you fail. And I think that I was very scared. I'm still very scared of interviews. And I think that there really is no reason to be. And I think they're really just trying to see what you can do and if you're a good fit for the company. What types of skills need to be harmed?
Okay, I think we're done with the questions, and if anyone has any other questions, they can either put it up in the chat box. And thank you so much, Carmen. It was indeed a great session with you. It was an absolute pleasure having you here. And if any of the audience have any other question, you can just reach out to her on LinkedIn, and we'll be uploading a LinkedIn profile link. And thank you so much. And it was spectacular session with you. I really learned a lot about applying in journals. So yeah, and if for all the audience, if you really like this video, just if you really like the session, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification, hit the bell icon as well to just get notified for any of the lectures we'll be holding, so that you don't miss out on the opportunity. And thank you everyone for coming here. Stay healthy, stay positive, and thank you everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.